I missed my mom's birthday for the first time in my life, and it shattered everything I thought I knew about my family. While I was in New York, closing the biggest deal of my career, my own mother stood in front of a room full of guests and said, "Well, I guess Julian finally picked money over family, just like his father." That one sentence broke something in me. My name's Julian West, and this is the story of how one missed dinner revealed decades of buried resentment, emotional manipulation, and the moment I finally chose myself over the family that never really chose me. Before we get started, where are you tuning in from? Are you in the middle of the morning rush or on a late-night drive? Drop a comment below. You're about to hear everything that happened after I made the choice that changed everything. I've always been the reliable one, the guy who flies home for every holiday, even if it means a red-eye flight and 4 days of jet lag. The one who drops everything to troubleshoot Ivy's Wi-Fi or fix Dad's finances after another bad investment. I never minded, or at least I told myself I didn't. That's what family does, right? Growing up in Sacramento, our household looked picture perfect on the outside. Dad ran a modest landscaping business, and Mom was the queen of PTA meetings and casserole cook-offs. I was the older sibling, 2 years ahead of Ivy, and took my role seriously. Maybe too seriously. When Dad's business hit a wall during my sophomore year of high school, I picked up a job bagging groceries and still graduated top of my class. I turned down out-of-state scholarships so I could stay close, go to UC Davis, and help out. Fast forward a decade and I'm living in Seattle, running a growing marketing consultancy with 5 employees, 3 big clients, and a pipeline that could finally push us into 7-figure territory. It's been hard-earned. The late nights, the failed pitches, the months of canned soup and secondhand suits. But it's mine. So when I got the call that a major publishing brand wanted to meet in person the same weekend as Mom's birthday, I hesitated, just for a second. Then I said yes. I sent flowers, a card, even filmed a short video message that Ivy promised to play during the dinner. "You're not a bad son for missing one birthday," she texted. "We'll save you some cake." That should have been it. Just one weekend, one missed dinner. But nothing is ever that simple in the West family. Ivy called me the next night, and her voice was tight. "Julian," she said, "I wasn't going to say anything, but I think you need to know what Mom said at the dinner." "What do you mean?" "She made a comment about you picking work over family, like in front of everyone." I felt my stomach drop. "What exactly did she say?" There was a pause. Then Ivy admitted, "I recorded part of the dinner by accident. I'll send it to you." And she did. A 10-second voice memo that changed everything. You could hear the clink of glasses, soft laughter in the background. And then Mom's voice, clear and too casual. "Well, Julian finally picked money over family, just like Roger. I guess we know where we stand." It didn't sound angry. It sounded worse, dismissive. Like my success was just another betrayal. Like years of sacrifice and loyalty didn't matter the second I made a choice for myself. I sat in my apartment, holding the phone, replaying that clip over and over. My jaw clenched tighter each time. That's when I knew. This wasn't about a missed birthday. This was about a story my mom had been telling for years. A story where I'm the one who left, the one who put himself first, the one who needed to be kept in line through guilt and obligation. And this one little clip, it finally gave me the proof I didn't know I needed. I didn't sleep that night. I kept staring at the ceiling, Ivy's voice memo playing in my head on a loop. Julian finally picked money over family, just like Roger. It wasn't just the words, it was the way Mom said them, like it was a joke everyone was already in on, like I'd confirmed some theory she'd been pushing for years. And the worst part? No one challenged her. Not Ivy, not my father, not even my aunt or cousins who were there. They just laughed. I woke up the next morning still in my button-down from the night before, my untouched dinner container half open on the coffee table. My phone buzzed with a message from Ivy. "Hey, you okay?" I didn't answer right away. Because no, I wasn't. I flew back to Sacramento that weekend. I told my team I needed to handle a family matter, which wasn't a lie, just more polite than saying, I need to find out when my family decided I was the villain in their group chat. Ivy picked me up from the airport. Her expression was careful, like someone walking into a room with a sleeping bear. Thanks for coming, she said, as I tossed my carry-on in the back seat. I'm not here to make a scene, I replied. But I need to say some things, and I need to hear some answers. She nodded. You should know. Mom's acting like nothing happened. She's already planning next Sunday dinner. Of course she was. When we pulled up to the house, everything looked the same. The porch swing, the geraniums, the little ceramic frog by the front steps. But stepping through the front door felt like entering a courtroom. Mom greeted me with her usual chirpy, Julian, look at you, still so busy. Too busy for your own mother. She said it with a smirk, like it was funny, like I should be grateful she was still teasing me. I didn't respond. I just asked if we could talk. We sat in the kitchen. Same kitchen I'd done my homework in, made grilled cheese in during college breaks, cried in after my first real breakup. Is something wrong? She asked, pouring herself tea like we were about to discuss the weather. Ivy sent me a recording, I said. Her hand froze mid-pour. She said you joked about me choosing money over family, said I'm like Dad. She set the kettle down. Julian, it was just a comment. People joke. You're being sensitive. No, I said. I'm being honest. That comment wasn't a one-off. It's the latest in a long pattern. She blinked at me. For years I've dropped everything for this family. I've paid bills no one asked about. I've fixed problems no one wanted to admit. And one time, I choose something important to me, and I'm the bad guy? She folded her arms. It's not about you missing a dinner. It's the feeling that you've moved on, like you don't need us anymore. I haven't moved on, I said, my voice shaking a little. I've grown up. I needed you all when I started this business and got silence. I sent updates, I tried to share wins, and every time I got, "That's nice, Julian, but have you talked to Ivy lately?" She looked down. We didn't mean to make you feel invisible. But you did. The silence sat between us like a third person. I heard Dad come in from the garage, and Ivy quietly stepped into the hallway, but no one said a word. Finally, Mom said, I guess I didn't know how to connect with what you were doing. You always seemed so far ahead. And that's my fault? No, she admitted. It's mine. It wasn't a grand moment. No hug. No swelling music. But it was honest. And it was the first time I saw my mom not as the voice of family obligation, but as a woman who was just as lost as I had been. Later that night, Ivy and I sat in my old room, eating leftover birthday cake from the fridge. You okay? She asked. I don't know, I said. But I think I finally stopped pretending I'm the only one holding this family together. She nodded. Maybe now we all start holding ourselves accountable. It wasn't closure, but it was a crack in the wall. And after a lifetime of pushing, even a crack can feel like a breakthrough. I flew back to Seattle with a strange mix of heaviness and relief. My conversation with Mom had opened a door, but it didn't erase the years that came before. The truth is, you don't heal a pattern overnight. You just start noticing it. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. That following Monday, I threw myself into work. We were finalizing a contract with a wellness tech startup that could open doors to 2 more clients in San Francisco. I had my calendar full and my focus sharp. But even as I smiled through Zoom calls and brainstormed campaign ideas, the voice memo and my mother's words lingered in the back of my head. Julian finally picked money over family, just like Roger. It wasn't just hurtful, it was history repeating itself. My dad had built his own business too back in the day, a landscaping company that he grew from a borrowed truck and a handwritten flyer into a 6-person operation. I remembered watching him come home with calloused hands and a sunburnt neck, exhausted but proud. But somewhere along the way, that pride started to fade. Mom complained that he was always gone, and when the business took a dip, she never missed a chance to remind him that he should have just taken a city job like everyone else. I didn't see it back then, but now I recognized the same script playing out again, this time with me in the role of the selfish overachiever. A few days later, Ivy called. "I know you're swamped, but can I come visit this weekend? I just need a change of scenery." "Of course," I said. "I'll pick you up from the airport." She arrived late Friday, suitcase in one hand, sketch pad in the other. I could see the exhaustion behind her eyes. "You okay?" I asked as we got into my car. She shrugged. "Just tired of pretending like I don't see it too." We spent most of Saturday just being quiet together. Coffee, a walk through Pike Place Market, take-out sushi. Then that night, she sat on my couch and said, "I want to show you something." She pulled up a digital portfolio on her iPad, page after page of beautiful branding concepts, hand-drawn logos, custom typefaces. I'd known she was creative, but this was next level. "Why haven't you shown anyone this?" I asked. "Because every time I get excited about doing something on my own, Mom says stuff like, 'You should just get a stable job like Julian.'" She paused. "Even when she's complimenting you, it feels like a warning to me." I understood that all too well. Praise as a tool of comparison, success as a weapon. "You're incredible, Ivy. You should be running your own creative studio." She laughed. "Yeah, and how am I supposed to start that? I don't have clients or money or—" "You have me." She blinked. "What?" "Come freelance for my firm. I've got 3 clients who need brand identity work and no one on staff for that right now. I'll pay you. Real rates, not brother favors." She hesitated. "You sure?" "I'm sure." She said nothing for a second. Then her voice got soft. "Thanks, Jules." That weekend changed everything. Not because we fixed the family, but because we stopped waiting for them to do it. We chose each other, not out of guilt, not out of tradition, out of trust. The following week, Ivy submitted her first set of deliverables to our project manager. The client loved them, and for the first time in a long time, I felt like I wasn't the only one carrying the weight. But just as things started to shift, I got a call from Dad. "Hey, buddy," he said. "You got a minute?" "Yeah." "What's up?" There was a long pause on the other end. "Your mom's been different since your visit. Quieter, thinking a lot. I think maybe we both have. And, well, she told me about what happened. About what she said at the party." I waited. "I wanted you to know I'm sorry too," he continued, "for all the ways I didn't speak up when I should have. For how I let you take on too much without saying thank you. You didn't deserve that." I didn't know what to say, so I just said, "Thanks, Dad." Maybe it wasn't too late. Maybe the pattern didn't have to repeat forever. But I also knew this much. Whether it did or didn't, I was done letting other people decide what I was worth. And from here on out, everything I built, business, boundaries, relationships, would be on my terms. Ivy's first paycheck from my company cleared on a Thursday. She texted me a screenshot of her bank balance with a dozen exclamation points and a crying emoji. Then, "It's the first time I've ever been paid to be myself." I just stared at that message for a moment, because I knew exactly what she meant. Helping Ivy wasn't a favor, it was a course correction, for both of us. She finally had space to stand on her own, and I was learning to let go of the reflex to carry everyone else's weight. I'd been doing that for so long, I didn't know how heavy it was until I started setting it down. But just as things started to settle, something happened that reminded me I wasn't done fighting for that balance. We were wrapping up the week when I got an email from a corporate events agency. They were planning a leadership summit and wanted to book me as a keynote speaker. Not just for my work, but for the story. My story. Apparently, someone from the publishing startup I'd signed weeks ago had mentioned my company's values and how I handled personal boundaries in business. That conversation had made its way through a few networks, and now I was being asked to speak on leading with integrity. The irony wasn't lost on me. I accepted the invitation. The summit was in Chicago, scheduled for late October, and while part of me still hesitated, still feared being too visible, another part was proud. I wasn't just building campaigns or managing accounts. I was building something that stood for more than profit, and I was finally being recognized for it. I called Marcus that night to tell him. "That's huge," he said. "You going?" "Yeah, I think I need to." He was quiet for a second, then asked, "You going to talk about the family stuff?" "I think I have to," I said. Not to embarrass anyone, but because that's where the shift started. That's where I found the line I wouldn't cross anymore. He understood. He always did. But the next day my phone rang again. This time it was Mom. "I heard you're going to be giving some speech," she said. No hello, no preamble. "Something about family?" I didn't say it was about family. "Well, people are saying it's inspired by your personal story. I just don't want you airing dirty laundry for strangers." I took a deep breath. "I'm not naming names," I said, "but I am telling the truth about how I used to confuse loyalty with silence, and how that almost cost me more than I was willing to lose." She didn't respond right away. "I just wish you didn't feel the need to make it public," she finally said, voice tight. "It was always public, Mom," I replied quietly. "Every time you made a joke at my expense, every time you reminded Ivy to be more like Julian, or told me not to be so full of myself. That was the story. I'm just not hiding from it anymore." Click. She hung up. It stung, but less than it would have before, because this time I didn't feel small. I felt solid. And maybe that was the difference. I didn't need her permission to speak. I didn't need her validation to feel proud of where I stood. A week before the Chicago trip, Ivy dropped by my apartment to give me something. A framed sketch. Just a few lines, but powerful. It showed a person stepping through a doorway, their back to a crowded room behind them. Above the door, in her handwriting, were the words, "You don't need a seat at their table when you're building your own." I stared at it, moved. "Is that for your speech?" I asked. "No," she said. "It's for your wall." I took it with both hands and set it on my desk. Chicago came and went. The speech went better than I expected. Afterward, 2 young founders came up to say it was the first time they'd heard someone talk about family boundaries and business in the same breath. That meant more than applause ever could. And when I flew home, I realized something. I hadn't just redefined success. I'd redefined where I belonged. Not in the shadows, not behind the scenes, not waiting for someone else to give me space, but right here, visible, accountable, whole. After Chicago, things didn't magically transform, but I did. I came back with more than just applause or new contacts. I came back with clarity. For the first time, I understood that my life didn't have to be a tug-of-war between my success and my family. It could be something new, something defined by respect, not guilt, choice, not obligation. Ivy's sketch still sat on my desk. Every time I glanced at it, I felt steadier. I stopped answering calls that came with loaded silences and passive-aggressive sighs. I stopped rearranging my schedule to soothe someone else's discomfort. And slowly, things began to shift, not just with me, but around me. A week after the speech, I got another message from my dad. This time, he asked to meet for lunch. We went to a quiet diner near my office. He ordered coffee, black, and spent a few minutes stirring it without adding anything. Finally, he said, "Your mom's been quiet lately. Reflective, I guess. You know how rare that is." I smiled slightly. "Yeah, I do." "She saw a clip of your talk," he added. The part about boundaries. My chest tightened. She said it made her think. About how she grew up. About what loyalty meant in her family. Her mom was tough. Respect meant silence. That's how she was raised. I listened, surprised he'd come with context instead of criticism. She's not great with apologies, he continued, but I think this is her version of trying. I nodded. Thanks for telling me. I'm proud of you, son, he said then. Not just for your business, for not letting us pull you back into something you outgrew. That one hit me harder than I expected. We didn't solve everything over burgers and black coffee, but we started something. An understanding, maybe even a truce. Not the kind built on sweeping things under the rug, but one built on finally calling things what they are. Later that month, Ivy and I launched a small mentorship initiative under my company, a support program for creative professionals who felt trapped by family expectations. We called it Rewrite. The first email we got was from a young woman in Oregon who'd postponed applying to design school because her parents said it wasn't a real career. She said our story gave her permission to try again. That one email? It made every uncomfortable conversation, every tense Sunday dinner, every moment of standing alone completely worth it. Mom didn't come to the launch, but she did send flowers. Just a simple bouquet of daisies, my favorite, and a card that said, "Some things take time. I'm trying. Love, Mom." I didn't cry. Not then. But I put the card in my drawer, and every now and then, I look at it and remember how far we've come. The thing is, family doesn't have to be a fairy tale. Sometimes it's messy. Sometimes it's a battlefield. But if you're lucky, and if you're brave, it can become something else. A place where truth is possible. A place where change begins. And that's what I've learned. That being the reliable one doesn't mean setting yourself on fire to keep everyone else warm. That love without respect is just control in disguise. And that sometimes, walking away from the table is the only way to find your own seat. I'm still learning, still healing, still figuring it out. But I'm no longer invisible. And I'm no longer waiting for someone else to see my worth before I claim it myself. What about you? Have you ever had to choose between pleasing your family and honoring yourself? Have you ever walked away from a place where you weren't valued, just to find out who you really are? We'd love to hear your story. Drop a comment below. If you're into real-life family drama like this, make sure to subscribe for more.